Have you ever been playing a game with non-human characters and wondered what they look like if they were humans? Well, I have, and that's why I spent a week turning 3 characters from Silksong into humans. Since I'm playing this game, I wanted to pick the characters I like the most so far. The first one I did was Hornet, this very interesting character we saw in Hollow Knight, who now stars in the sequel. What you need to do is figure out what makes this character so striking. If you start analyzing, the horns on the mask and the red cloak are key. The sword also stands out quite a lot, and I suppose we could add the threads into the equation as well, since they are closely tied to Hornet. All these elements are what made us love the character so much when we first saw her, since it's a really good design with a very recognizable silhouette, something that reflects the care and dedication the artist put into these games. Once you've got all this clear, the next step is to translate the character's feelings and attitude into a human form, using body language and facial expressions. I have to say it was really challenging for me. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, so I explored several options. In fact, I recorded 3 separate versions, and in the end I went with this one, which was the second and the one that convinced me the most. The reasoning behind this pose and design is that my vision of the character is that she is a huntress, always ready for combat. That's why I drew her with the sword in hand and more discreetly holding some darts to throw. I also see her as someone observant, serious and attentive, so I gave her a serious face with big open eyes. Having an attentive, piercing gaze with a strong, experienced and determined body posture. And honestly, after 20 hours in the game, I feel that everything I've said is pretty accurate, because it's kind of how you have to be. The game difficulty starts off as if we're the end of Hollow Knight, which I love, because I enjoy a game that is a progressive challenge. It makes me feel like when I was a kid and I couldn't get past the first castle in Super Mario Bros. And I had to put genuine effort into understanding the game mechanics. I understand the criticism that the game is difficult and that some people don't like that. But that's the beauty of these games. The fights are like choreographies, like a dance, where if you miss the tempo, you have to try again. And I'm sorry, but it's always the same story. It happened with Bloodborne and its DLC, it happened with Sekiro, it happened with Elden Ring's DLC. There have been always complaints about the difficulty, because people go in with big egos thinking they're going to have a clean run, and that will not happen. Even though Souls-like have become very popular, I still think they are niche games, and not made for everyone. And I'm grateful it's still that way, because if these games gave in to the populism, they lose a lot of their essence, and wouldn't be the same anymore. But anyways, as a friend of mine says, that's just an opinion. I know, sorry for the long speech. This is how the final piece turned out. Honestly, I'm very satisfied with the result, mainly because of how much work it took me, and I hope you like it too, and that when you see it, you can immediately recognize that it's Hornet. The next character is Shakra, the one who sells you maps. Following in the style of Hollow Knight, you discover this character mainly through the song she hums. But unlike Cornifer, this character isn't just an NPC you buy maps from. She's a fighter who uses gold or bronze rings to attack and defend herself from enemies. In fact, Shakra will go on guard if you attack near her, instead of getting scared like the other bugs do. As always, here I had to look at what makes this character so striking, and what mainly stands out to me is that she is very tall compared to the other NPCs. The horn on her head and the orange clothing are also quite noticeable, but what I think stands out the most about this character are the rings she carries. which you find on the ground before you encounter her in each area, serving as an indicator that she is nervy, just like coniferous feathers. That's why these rings are so important, since they are used in the game itself to signal that the character is close. Then I had to think about how I saw the character, just like I did with Hornet, identifying her personality so I could translate those traits physically into the illustration. For example, I see her as a fighter, strong and adventurous, and I reflected that here by giving her a strong, athletic build and a battle-ready pose. I also gave her that determined and empowered look, full of strength and pride. Oh, I almost forgot about the quiver she carries full of maps, which is super noticeable mainly because it's completely red, something that stands out against the characters black, white and orange. Something that I hope you don't forget is to give a like and subscribe, because I do all this alone and your support helps me a lot. Thank you! Well, this is how the final illustration turned out, and I'm really happy with this drawing. I didn't have as many complications as with Hornet, which made me enjoy the process a lot, and I love how expressive it ended up being. I'm very satisfied with this one. For the last one, I decided to do Sherma, this little friend you meet at the beginning, singing to a door to open it, to continue his pilgrimage. He is a charming and quite adorable character who has won people's heart, and it's funny because as far as I've played, he doesn't give you anything special, but his beautiful song and positive attitude are enough to make you grow fond of him. The features that made him look so endearing are his short stature with his huge head. On top of that head, the bronze frisbee he wears as a hat is very striking. It looks like a flattened bell. Another characteristic trait of this character is the bronze piece he carries in his hand, which he strikes against the needle he holds in the other hand like a staff, creating a little tune he uses as the base of his song. Then I imagine what he would be like if he were a person. And here I had a very clear idea, but I wasn't quite sure how to execute it. What I had in mind was the image of a young boy singing with great joy, almost with a touch of innocence. Someone not very experienced, who has yet to see the cruelty of the world. And that very innocence make him endearing, someone we wholeheartedly wish will reach his destination safe and sound. This speaks volumes about the character work behind this game. How a character with few lines whom we see only briefly can inspire more appreciation than others who have thousands of lines and appear constantly. It's a great demonstration that less, but with better care, is better than a lot with little care. And that's why my favorite character in this game so far is the Bell Beast. It doesn't have a single line of dialogue, and yet it's tremendously adorable. Every time I visit it, I love seeing the little sounds it makes and how it reacts to different things. Well, I'm going off topic. This is how the final result turned out, and I have to say I really like the idea behind this illustration, but I don't like how I executed it. I think it doesn't have the definition it should, and that's because I didn't work the edges very well, so the image has an unfinished look. Overall, I really enjoyed doing this. I had a great time and I loved the process. I'm also very happy I was able to make a video about Silksong, because back in the day I loved Hollow Knight with all my heart, and Silksong is no different. As I've been making this video, I've been progressing through the game, and so far I've enjoyed everything I played. The music, the landscape, the characters, the exploration, the level design, and the combat. Everything feels like an excellent and very enjoyable game. So much respect to Team Cherry for creating this work of art and pricing it at €20. That's crazy. It's really admirable, because we live in a world where big companies produce games with no value or soul, sell them for 80 euros, and on top of that, they patent basic mechanics just to make more money. They are the very embodiment of greed. Anyway, hope you liked the art and enjoyed the video. A hug to everyone. Bye!